Hashtag rise and grind. So Brian, you've been winning for a long time. You're a competitor, right? You've got a beautiful family, multiple businesses. You're in New York City. I've walked around the city with you. You're a very respected and well-known individual in that city. You've done some pretty incredible things. So what I would like to for you to please share with the audience today is like, what does it take to consistently win?
I think it's to look for a sustainable competitive advantage. And Warren Buffett talks about if you're sitting in at a basketball game or a hockey game and you want to get an advantage over the person behind you, you stand up and you've got a competitive advantage. But one could ask, is that a sustainable competitive advantage? Because then what he does to get that advantage is he stands up. And so I think if there's one thing I'm blessed with, it's a hunger, an appetite to try and figure it out and make it a little bit better than it was before. And one of in my long-term goal book, my number one goal is to leave the place and to leave the business a little bit better than I found it. And that's an obligation I've made to myself, and to leave the people that I have the privilege of sharing and working with a little bit better than they were before. And I think this pandemic has caused us all to take a really introspective look at what's going on. That city that I walked through with you is not the same, Glenn. It's just not the same. It's sad to see what's happened to New York City. It's closed for business, and slowly we're trying to get back to normal. But unlike New York right now is unlike any place in the country. We have over 50% of deaths in the country taking place within 6 miles of my store. We have the highest density of population infected with coronavirus close to the store. And I respect everybody having different opinions on this. I know a lot of guys have seen some posts, I'm not wearing a mask and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. Hey, that's great. But I can tell you this virus is serious. I have people that work for me that have had family members die. And that's, I can probably name 7 or 8 people that I know that have died. And if I take it one step out, people that I know and their family members is probably 10, 15, 20. I don't recall any other flu, influenza, or any other disease having that kind of a profound impact. When 9/11 happened, I happen to know a number of people that were in the financial world. And, certainly I knew a couple of people that passed away in 9/11. This is unlike that. I know a lot of people. We've had numerous people that are close to the dealership, connected with the dealership, that were infected with the virus. And my wife and I were amongst those. And I have to tell you, it knocked me on my backside for better than 2 weeks. And there was a point one night when I got up about 3 o'clock in the morning and wrote my wife a nice little note. Should I die? Here's who you contact, the lawyer that you contact to handle this. Here's the accountant you contact to handle that. Rachel, my assistant, knows where all the codes are to the safes and everything. Contact here, and then some nice words. And I put that upstairs. And I'm not a drama queen, but I just did not. I was just having a really difficult night, and I did manage to get to sleep. And I woke up several hours later. I was 6 pounds lighter. 6 pounds.
Wow.
Nearly a gallon of fluid, and the fever broke. So again, I think you're in control of your own health, and I think you need to be responsible in the face of this disease, because it doesn't impact you until it hits you. And then you start seeing soldiers of yours drop one at a time. And you say to yourself, gosh, could I have done something to prevent that? You don't want that on your head. You really don't.
Brian, thanks for sharing that, man. And I remember calling you just to check in on you, and and you had told me that it had hit you, and I know that you had told me it had knocked you on your rear end, and for me, it definitely got more real right there at that moment, because you're my dude. You're Superman, and when Superman, my guy in New York, my Superman in New York got knocked down, it's like, dang, but it's it's crazy how, depending on where you are, depending on your situation, how you were raised, like everything kind of determines how this particular incident impacts us, right?
Go ahead. In February, the end of February, I took my son to the Tyson Fury fight in Las Vegas, right? And picture this. So it's February 22nd, and England and Europe is already ravaged with the coronavirus. I took my children to Las Vegas to go watch a boxing match between a Brit and an American. And the audience was filled with Britons. I can't imagine how many people in that audience may have had the coronavirus at that time. By mid-March, the virus was everywhere in New York, starting to be everywhere, but our stores were doing incredibly strong business. By March 13th, we were several $100,000 ahead of last year, and the volume levels were right about where they were last year. So I thought, wow, we're going to be okay here. And I could have given you all the statistics. How many more people died from the flu? How many more people died from heart disease? How many more people died from I had all the statistics. They're meaningless until it hits you. When it hits you, bam, oh my gosh, those stats don't mean a darn thing. And our business came to a grinding halt as we had people that were passing away. But I don't want to be negative on this. It's what do we do now? What do we do to get out of this? And so you start looking for rays of hope and bright spots. And the birds are outside and they're chirping. The sun is coming up out here, right? And and maybe not more importantly, but in business, there are people searching for our products, right? Now than ever. And if you have a digital eye on what's going on, you can buy AdWords now at half the price you could buy AdWords for before, because there are less dealers that are advertising, right? They've contracted. And so now it's time, when they've contracted, for you to get your fishing nets up, your internet AdWord nets up, because there are lots of fish in the pond, right? Customers are tired of sitting at home, so they're starting to go out. We sold 3 years ago, in the month of May, we sold nearly 700 new cars and 400 used cars. And I'm not saying that to brag. Many of those customers leased cars from us. They have to make a decision now of what they're going to do. And so, we're messaging, reaching out to those folks saying, hey, this is, many customers are asking us, is this a good time to buy a car? If you have a lease and you want to get a new lease, this is an excellent time. But first and most importantly, take care of your family. If you're in a position to do business, there's never been a better time. And you've really got to balance that out, right? You don't want to be the guy that's saying, hi, I'm Big Bob of Big Bob Honda, and come see me now, and we're having a coronavirus sale. Well, no, absolutely. That would be, I would be offended by seeing that messaging. And I do everything I could to avoid a business doing it. But there is a way, people tend to en masse buy things at the wrong time, right? They buy stocks when the stock market's really high. They buy real estate when real estate's really high. They buy cars when the economy's really flying. And the reality is the value is there sometimes when the difficulties are there. And so all of the OEMs have programs right now. All of the dealerships have inventory they need to move. So in terms of, is it a good time for a consumer to buy a car? Well, if the consumer has a solid job and they have a reasonable assurance that they're not going to have a change there, if they have some money in the bank, then it's a great time to buy a car. But if someone's worried about the next paycheck, well, there's probably some other priorities that they have to focus on.
Yeah.
But that's everybody.
No doubt. No doubt.
Hashtag rise and grind. Hashtag rise and grind. First thing on my mind. Early